Guys, welcome back to another week. Anaheim 2's in the books here, and we are moving on to, where are we going? Phoenix now?
Yeah, well, Glendale,
Phoenix,
whatever they
Glendale. So let's start here. Let's cry
a little bit.
Let's cry a little bit. Actually, we're gonna have a moment of silence here for our Honda Championship hopes. Okay, so now that we're done crying, let's talk about the 250 class. Let's start right on the podium. On the top, we had Justin Hill. Looked really, really good. I'm still not a believer. I think, as he said on the podium himself, he did the exact same thing last year. He went 5, 2, 1, hit the deck.
Yeah, but he looks a little bit more comfortable this year. I mean, I still don't believe it either, but like I told you last night, if he keeps riding like that, I don't think anybody will touch him.
He was really, really fast.
I mean, AP got him behind him on that first lap, and he dropped him. Hey, it's a possibility. Like I said, he has not completed a full season. But all I'm saying is that if he rides like that, nobody's going to touch him on the West Coast. It was a shocker for me.
It was. If he can consistently keep it up there, I think, yeah, he's definitely. I mean, realistically, in the 250 class, the title contenders are the top three. You've got McElrath, AP, and Hill. Those are your three guys that are going to compete for this title here.
Yep.
McElrath again looked good last night.
Just had a little bit of an off night.
Yeah.
I mean, but he's still the points leader, so that's all that matters.
It was like a Dungy off night.
Yeah.
He was third on his off night. So
Yep.
And Plessinger,
I was a little disappointed with that.
He was consistently solid again, second place.
He is, but knowing his program and know the way that Swanee trains those guys, and with him, I know that Aaron's not happy if he's not winning, especially with this possibly being his last year in the 250 class.
Yep.
So,
but again, I thought all three looked good.
Yep.
Shane actually had to come through the pack a little bit there to get to where he was. Had a good battle with Faulkner, and got up there, and again looked solid. So it's kind of weird because that class is definitely a little more boring this year per se compared to the 450s.
I think the East Coast is going to be where it's at. East Coast, there's like 7, 8 dudes, and then you add on a couple of the privateers coming up. So the East Coast is definitely going to be the exciting coast, and I don't know if the West Coast guys, speed for speed, even as much as I like Aaron and as good as Hill and McElrath, if they match up with the East Coast guys.
Now, let's talk about Faulkner.
Yeah, good.
Had a good night.
Bike looked better.
Won his heat. Bike looked better. Said he was working on his suspension with his team. Definitely looked better. Pulled the whole shot in the main too. Was out front. So again, that's kind of what we talked about before with him, where we thought he would just build and build and build. He did that in outdoors, and he's doing it again. Now he's experienced that whole shot. He's experienced being out front. So I think if he didn't quite have the speed last night to go with those top three guys.
No, they kind of sprinted away from him.
Yep, they got away. But
well, this weekend will be a good marker though, because we're going into the first dome race where it's not going to be as soft and rutted. It's going to be more packed and concrete,
and you'll get a free practice and qualifying.
So we'll see maybe if the dirt changing a little bit suits Faulkner a little bit more. I still don't know if he's going to be able to do it, but this weekend will be a good indicator to see what it's like with different dirt, with where his speed's at. So.
And I'm still on the Faulkner bandwagon. I'm driving that motherfucker right now.
He's going to be a champion in Supercross eventually, like we talked about way back at the beginning before A1. It's a lot harder to transition into Supercross as a rookie. A lot of guys have proved it. I think he's going to be good. I think he'll get some podiums. I don't know if he's going to get a win before, but he could win in Vegas. I just don't know if he's got the speed of those first three guys, because he still is. Even when he won that heat race, he was still making few bobbles here and there. And I think if you're going to win on the West Coast, I think you're going to have to be solid for the whole main. But we'll see. We'll see. He's the next big thing. So it's still a possibility. Now that we're 3 rounds in, I'm not as convinced anymore. But who knows? He could go win Glendale this weekend. So.
Yeah, he could, especially now that he's been out front. So
have
to keep our eye on him and see. He makes it exciting at least over there, because you're never quite sure what he's going to do.
And now let's talk about something that was kind of not so funny for the two guys that it involved, but kind of funny if you know the backstory between these two guys. J Mart and Filthy going down together in the first turn, and basically J Mart pushing Filthy's bike down because he's so short and he can't get up.
That was That was pretty good. Those two have to have, I think, some of the worst luck in the 250 West class. Martin looked good in the preseason, came in, was supposed to be,
and he was even good in his heat race as the race went on,
Yep,
so.
But then gets in the main and has not had any luck whatsoever all year. Phil, same way. I mean, A1, he had a crash in the first turn.
Feet off the pegs going through one of the 180s, and he says it's his fastest lap. But it does really make you think, though, that what J-Mart can do if he actually does finally get some luck in the mains, because of the fact with the new time stuff. Once again, A1 and A2 didn't really prolong the race where J-Mart's style get into a groove later, but it really makes you wonder if he gets the chance, what can he do? Because he did build in that heat race as the race went on and he closed the gap. So, I mean, you got to feel for him. Like I said, I texted you. I was like, I'm pretty sure J-Mart has no luck whatsoever.
Yep.
But it does make you wonder if he does get off the line, what he can do. Mm-hmm. So it's just
and even Phil's the same way. Phil came right through the pack with Jeremy.
Yeah,
he didn't struggle at all passing people. He
Nope.
was taking. Who was it? There was it must have been some privateer guys because they were 3 digits. He took both of them at once at a block pass.
Yep.
I mean, he definitely is looking good on the 250.
And he's hating every minute.
And he's hating every minute of it right now.
He hates being on a 250F.
But we'll see. Maybe those guys will get a start at some point, mix it up in the front.
Yep. So
if their luck changes.
Yeah, which I don't know if it's gonna.
I don't know if it's gonna either. Okay, so let's transition now into the 450 class, and let's talk about Dirtworks. They have been doing an awesome job in California here for as much rain as we've gotten over the first 3 rounds, and the fact that we have not had a mutter yet, especially this week, because they were getting dumped on this past week.
They got dumped on hard for about 3 or 4 days. I mean, it was bad. They're doing such a good job tarping the track, pumping the water, scraping the transitions and stuff. And, I can't remember. It was Cole on the podium thanking one of the guys from Dirtworks, just saying how much they've been working their asses off, which they never really have to on the West Coast rounds because of the fact, it just doesn't rain in California.
Except for this year.
Yeah, but, even in practice yesterday, I watched a little bit of the time qualifying, and aside from the first practice, the track was dry. They were watering by the second, I think it was the 250B first practice or whatever. They were watering by the time that practice was done. Mm-hmm. So let's give them a big shout out because
keep up the good work because you're doing great.
Because we could have had 3 mutters in a row.
We could have.
That would have been really bad. So
we definitely could have. All right, and now let's start talking about some actual 450s here. Let's talk about Jason Anderson and Vince Freeze.
Yes.
So.
I don't even know what to say.
I don't. Well, it fucked up my whole fantasy league.
I had Anderson in second.
My fantasy league last night literally got torpedoed, starting with that and then continued on to the Kenny thing.
I got 0 points.
Yeah, probably did too. Because I did too, because I even called Bogle we play RM Fantasy, and I called Bogle in the wild card spot, and he didn't even make the main.
Yeah, and I had Wilson, and he finished like 18th or something.
So, definitely it was a weird night. Now, my take on the situation between Vince and Anderson, I think Anderson took it farther than it needed to be, and I don't think this is the worst accident we've ever seen from Vince.
Vince ran it in deep. It just, in my opinion, it looked worse because Ando lost his balance and then Muscan hit him, which made it look like, it was just a straight T-bone.
Yeah.
But you can't put your hands on a guy, a la Weston last year. You just can't do it.
Yeah. Now, let's flip the other side of the coin here.
Vince is an asshole.
Vince is a dickhead.
He is.
All right? And I really wonder how long is the AMA going to let him keep getting away with crap like this, because this guy has a history. You look at last year when him and Pike got into it. You have every single commentator on Fox Sports is talking about he's known for this. He does this all the time. He freezed him. All this crap like that. How many times are you going to let this guy take out stars of your series? And then the stars get upset because this guy, honestly, is a 15th to 20th place guy, and the only way he has a chance is if he runs you off the track.
He's a danger to everybody else.
And so, how long do you let this guy continue to do crap like this before you just go, no, man, just go race somewhere else,
Yeah, I've been watching Vince do this since the B class at all the amateur nationals and down at MTF. He knows he's not as fast as those guys. He knows the only thing he's good at is getting starts and riding a wide bike. It wasn't the worst thing we've ever seen Vince do. I mean,
it really
obviously,
wasn't. That wasn't that bad.
No, that was an aggressive pass. He was definitely pumping up and trying to do whatever he could to stay in the top 4. He ran it in deep. It just looked worse because Muscan went down with Anderson. But I got to say, John Gallagher at the FIM, and a lot of people are upset with him right now. If you're going to keep doing this, you got to be consistent. Anderson should have not put his hands on Freeze. He can't do that. But if you're going to find Ando, or DQ Anderson, you need to find Vince's mechanic, because Vince's mechanic put his hands, whether he was protecting Vince or not, he put his hands on Anderson, caused Anderson, as funny as it was, it's also a serious issue when the KTM 50 kids are watching this whole thing happen and they're watching, their heroes. It's bad publicity. And even though it wasn't Vince's worst thing, like you said, if Vince is going to keep doing this, it's got to start racking up. And this even dates back to Weston last year, where Vince is on notice. And it wouldn't surprise me if press release comes out this week that he gets fined, because John Gallagher said we're going to look at it. So I'm just saying, if you're going to DQ Anderson, be consistent and keep all parties in the same realm of finding people. Because it's not fair to just DQ Anderson and then just, hey, Vince, we're just going to let you keep doing it. Because he always does it. He got into it with Weston. That was the big thing last year. He got into it with Seeley. Seeley called him a spode and a dangerous to everybody out there. He got into it with Anderson also again last year. He's got into it with Nick Schmidt. He's got into it with everybody. He even got into it with Dungey like 2 or 3 years ago. I can't remember which race it was, but he got into it with it. And it's saying something when Dungey's going to come off the track and he starts complaining about people, because Ryan never opens his mouth. So I just want the F5 to be consistent. That's my biggest thing. But the biggest takeaway, Anderson shouldn't have put his hands on him, because you can't do that.
I just want the guy to really either straighten up or get the hell out, honestly. Because here's the thing. When we go to the races, we go all day. We get there at noon. We watch all the practices, everything. So I watch the C group, the B group, everyone. No one, including all the privateers that I watch, and I'm sure I miss some stuff, that's fine. But no one, to me, has a riding style like Vince. No. You don't catch any of those privateers sticking it into a factory guy to try and make the main. Like, they'll stick it into each other.
But they have more respect.
Yeah, but they have more respect than that. Where Vince doesn't. He just goes out there and he's going to stick it to anybody he can to try to make the main, so he can ride for 5 laps and then roll through everything.
And then he ended up getting 21st or 20th last night?
It's just like, why do you waste your time trying to keep a guy like that around? Just get rid of him.
Yeah, it's a joke, and it's getting more to the point that it's almost, it's bad when even Emig's on the broadcast and he's saying, well, you got to watch out for his tendencies. Like, no, like, you shouldn't have to worry that, okay, every time I leave the door open, unless I apex the corner, this dude's going to slam me and take me on the ground. Like, you just can't. It's getting pathetic. So I agree with everything you said, and I think that the FIM I want them to reevaluate things, because if you're going to do that, be consistent with everything. Don't just find one guy. So.
And that's the end of our Vince Freeze rant.
Yes, even though it was deserved.
Okay, so moving on from our rant about Freeze, let's move on to the rookies and how they did last night. Let's start with, I guess, the biggest one. Let's go with Malcolm Stewart here.
Yep.
Malcolm shows up in his own truck ready to go, and actually he didn't do bad. No. I was pleasantly surprised for him riding a Suzuki and the supposed lack of prep he had and everything. Second place in the heat race.
Great.
And what did he finish in the main? I don't remember exactly.
I think he was running 10th or 11th at one point, and I don't know. They didn't show it on the broadcast, obviously. Yeah. But somebody said he went down. He got tangled up with somebody. I don't know. I think he ended up like 17th. But still, for the fact of coming into the third round with no prep time, whatever you want to call it. I know he was at the Suzuki track, and he was
got
at
his race motor on Tuesday.
Yeah, that was like $6,000 apparently from Yosh. Anyway. Either way, however you want to talk about it, however you feel about Malcolm, him sitting out, the way he was talking. Second place in the heat race, and as stacked as that was a good building point. Because when he came out there and he was last on the back of Marvin, and Marvin started sprinting away, I was like, Malcolm's going to have to go to the semi. And then he just starts showing him a wheel, and then he runs him wide, and then all of a sudden Malcolm's in second, and I'm like, oh, holy crap, okay. Didn't see that coming.
Yeah, so he definitely surprised us. I'm not even a Malcolm fan. but I was pleasantly surprised by how well he did last night.
Which proved that he does have the speed to run that pace. It's just going to be, I think it's going to be a long time before we see him. I said maybe top 5 if he got a start. He obviously didn't get a start. I think his stamina is going to be an issue. But even though it was just a heat race, doesn't matter. He proved that he can go out and run with those guys. So that's another factor to add in with all the parity and everything going on, because I don't think anybody expected Malcolm to do that well, even in the heat race. So
that was good. And then our other rookie,
finally,
Cooper Webb, my dog, actually came out, did all right yesterday. Whatever they did to the suspension or whatever was great. Yep. Keep going in that direction.
Yep.
I mean, good heat race, good hole shots, both of them.
Yep.
Hole shots, both of them. Yep. Unbelievable. Unbelievable good for Cooper Webb. But yeah, looked good, looked fast, looked competitive, stayed up front last night in the main for quite a while. So
he was a little bit further back from, Dungey and Marv and Sealy, but him and Weston were going at it basically the whole entire main, and he looked really good. I think that's whatever, like you said, whatever they did with the chassis, it looked softer compared to being way too stiff. Once again, going to Glendale round, he did good last year. Him and Christian went at it. Another track where it's not going to be soft, it's going to be more packed up. Maybe he gets on the box this weekend. Who knows? He rode good. I don't know what his lap times were, but he definitely looked good, and that was the Cooper Webb that we all kind of thought he was going to be.
Yeah, that was what we thought was going to show up at A1.
Yes. So
the fact that he finally showed up, it's a good sign.
Yeah, and kind of the weird thing is about the 450 class is you don't normally see, even for somebody with all the credentials and the hype and the speed of Cooper, as bad as he did the first 2 rounds, you don't really see somebody come out a round later and get top 5. Like, if you're building on your bike and you're building with your fitness or whatever, I would have thought, okay, he's going to get an 8th or he's going to get a 7th and he's going to go forward, instead of, nope, we're going to go from 13th to 4th. Kind of it shocked me a little bit, because there was no indication that he was going to do that well after San Diego. So maybe that's another thing. Anytime you're in the 450 class, you got to hold your hat on anything. So that was a shock to me, and it was a good shock because, like you, all big Cooper Webb fans. So really hope that that's a sign of things to come, and he just keeps building.
So we'll see where we go from there with Coop.
Yep. Just hold me in the field position.
All right. Now we got to talk about it.
No, notice the mood change. I'm about to cry.
Which makes us sad. We start crying. Don't think less of us.
Yep.
Because I almost cried last night.
Yeah. You want to say it, or do I have to?
Let's talk about Kenny's crash. All right. So Ken Roxon, the most exciting person in the world for me this year.
Yeah, basically.
Is out.
The charisma, we pegged him for the championship, and I don't even know what to say, to be honest with you. Before we get into this a little bit more extensively, let me first say, for all the bullshit people, the people who want to talk smack on the forums that don't like Kenny, whatever, you cannot like him for his attitude. He's not old school, he's not humble, whatever. For everybody saying last night that crash had something to do with him riding out of his comfort zone or momentary lapse of judgment, y'all just need to shut up, because that had nothing to do with it. He was marking Cole. He knew he had time if he got her on Cole to close the gap on Dungey. That was just an instance of the track breaking down. The face got real rutted and G'd out, and everybody was having problems, because if you go back and watch it, I watched Chad almost go over the bars. I watched Cole almost go over the bars. Malcolm in the heat race almost went over the bars on that section. The face is too small for how much lift you got to get, so it had nothing to do with Kenny.
It was like Jeff said on the thing. It was when they tarp the tracks like that, in the transitions in the bottom, water will sit there and get soft. And you can watch it week in and week out with the way the ruts form and everything, and you can watch that. If you go back and watch the slow-mo of him going off that lip, if you watch him in the transition in the bottom where it G's out on him, he puts a 6-inch rut in there. Like, you can watch the rut get deeper as his wheels go through it. It's unbelievable how deep it got.
Yes.
And that's what caused that. I mean, Kenny wasn't riding above his head. Kenny wasn't riding out of his mind. He knew he had time. Hell, we had over half the race left, and he was only 4 seconds off of off of Dunge.
And you even watched him back it down a few times when he got close to Cole when he got sketchy.
Yep. So it's one of those things. It was a freak accident, and now we're dealing with a supposed compound fracture in his left arm, and we won't see him till outdoors.
The only thing I will say about that if you want to be one of the haters, which we aren't, and I know a lot of people still like Kenny, and I was watching last night, the only thing I will say that caused that is because of his line selection. Because if you noticed, he was the only one going on off 3-2, whereas everybody else was doubling over the table and then going 3-3. I don't think it was that smart to do it. I was kind of surprised. He must have thought that just dropping off the on-off was faster, whatever. That would be the only thing I would say that caused that. He could have started doubling in, which once again, maybe he saw something on the, going squaring up and then going to the outside and going on-off was smoother, whatever. But that's the only thing you could say that maybe caused that was his line selection. He should have maybe started doubling in. But other than that, had nothing to do with Kenny. The face got G'd out. That was the end of it. Everybody else got loose. You even heard Dungy after when Jenny Taft was talking to him how bad the track got because of all the water. I don't think it was as bad as San Diego, but that had nothing to do with Roxon. So for everybody talking, that was typical Kenny, that had nothing to do with Kenny. It's not the bike. It was just it's racing, plain and simple. It's how the track breaks down when you have an outdoor track and it rains. Get over it.
Look at Tomac 2 years ago. I mean, guy was on fire and lost it in a sweeper corner.
The biggest thing is I think the reason why everybody does that is because they look at Dungy go so fast and he's so consistent and he never makes mistakes. Well, you know what? Dungy had a bad night until the main last night, so it happens to everybody. Mm-hmm. So get over it. People stop hating on Roxon. That had nothing to do with him. It was just, it's part of racing. When you're at that level, it happens. Split second, and it's over with. So.
Yep. So let's move on to our podium, guys. Let's start with Seeley. Finally gets on the box, which is good.
Yep.
Honda's still up there. Had a good night. Looked really solid.
I think he still could have had time to close on Dungy if he wouldn't stalled it. We didn't see that happening. I think it was when they were, when they were still working on Roxon. But yeah, looked good, and he's about Honda's only hope at this point. So
yeah, I think he'll do well the rest of the season. I mean, he's always done well. Is he going to be able to win against, say, like Anderson, Marv, Dunge, because those are basically the three other dudes.
I think he can.
Yeah, if he gets a start over him, I think he can stay out front. He's got the speed to stay out front. But as far as does he have that raw speed like Kenny does to chase him down?
No,
I don't think so.
No, if he gets a bad start, no.
So so I think he'll do well. Marv is still looking solid.
Yep.
And did not get dropped last night like he did in the weeks prior.
No, that was definitely. Although everybody's saying that he closed on Dungy at the end of that main. Look, he did technically, but Dungy mailed it in at that point. He knew that he had it in hand. So don't get too crazy that Marv went from 6 seconds to 2.2 or whatever it was. Dungy mailed it in. Let's be real. There was like 2 minutes to go in a lap, so Dungy knew that he didn't have to push at that point. But he didn't get dropped, so that's good.
Yep. Nope, he didn't get dropped by 20 seconds. Now, that could have been too because Kenny and Dunge weren't pushing each other to go faster and faster.
Yeah.
So, that could have been too, but we'll never know.
But last night, everything that happened, and it's hard to say this, up until the main, it does prove that Dungy is susceptible to have problems. Mm-hmm. So, I'm like I told you last night, the championship got a whole hell of a lot easier, but I'm not counting out because
I mailed it in for Dunge.
See, I don't think it's over with. Even though I didn't say that Marv, you thought that Marv could get a couple wins. Marv's only 6 points back. Now, whether he's going to be able to get multiple race wins is something I didn't think he would do. But if you want to hold your hat on anything that's not being a boring season, Marv, second place, third the first 2 rounds. Marv has been the second most, up until Kenny last night, he's been the second most consistent guy to this point. And if he gets a few wins, it might not be just Dungy's going to run away with it. But yes, the championship going a whole hell of a lot easier after Roxon.
I'm barring a catastrophic failure on Dunge. Dunge is about to go 3-peat. So, he could one round end up like Kenny and, have something crazy happen like that. But if nothing crazy like that happens and he just rolls through the season, he's going to win it hands down. Easy. He wraps up with 2 rounds to go again.
Yeah.
He's too consistent not to, and there's nobody else out there that I really see
Anderson's the only guy.
Out consistency.
No, not consistent.
Much.
Anderson speed for speed. Anderson is the only one so far that's proved. The incident last night and then not getting starts in the first 2 rounds. Just the reason why I don't want to mail it in right away, and it's maybe just having false hope, is that last night proved that if you do have a bad round, which Dungey never does, but if he does, with as close as everybody is, look how quickly you go back in the points. That's the only thing we can hold our hat on. And once again, another great thing, Marv being only 6 points down, or 7 or whatever it was, is usually by this point when Dungey's out front, he usually has over a 15-point lead. Mm-hmm. So 6 points for somebody that's that consistent. And I think you showed, a little bit of fire. I saw a little bit of fire. Maybe you didn't. Maybe other people didn't see it. But I saw a little bit of fire in Marv's ass last night when he was on the podium. He did not look happy that this is the 3rd round in a row that Dungey has straight whooped his ass. Mm-hmm. And I think it's because they train together. I don't know. I don't know if you saw that, but Marv did not look...
Yeah, he wasn't quite as happy as he normally was.
And Marv's usually good at putting on, even if it's fake, a face. He looked pretty pissed to be, and who knows? I don't know. Mm-hmm. I don't want to give up hope. I know that it may be considered false hope, but I don't want to give up hope yet because that Marv's only 6 points down. So, but once again, Dungey could go on a roll, but we'll see. It's still a long season.
Okay, so finishing up this week, we've had a request in the comments, and yes, guys, we do read the comments to do our top 5 predictions, and we both play RM Fantasy Supercross, so this is real easy. So what we're going to do is our top 5 predictions plus wild card position too, because obviously we got to pick that. So you want to go first? You want me to go first?
You can go first.
Okay, so as far as top 5 goes, pretty much from this point out, since Kenny's going to be gone, I mean, you got to look at, I'm going to probably put Dunge down for the win, probably Marv for second. As far as 3rd and 4th go, you just roll Anderson, Seeley.
Yeah. And
then once you get into 5th place, I mean, there's kind of a bunch of different guys. It just depends what happens during the week in practice. Cooper Webb, obviously he can do it. Weston Pike.
Yep, building
and solidly in the about 8th to 5th place ranking every single week.
Yep.
Trying to think who else. I mean, Chad Reed, you could put him up there if he has a decent week because he's been up there.
And Davian Baggett in the heat race proved if they get starts,
they can be up there too. So I mean, you realistically have 5 or 6 guys for that 5th place spot. You can put Eli up there too. Even that's so sad to talk about.
Oh, how the mighty have fallen. How the mighty have fallen. Sorry, guys. It's just being Eli fans, this is really hard for us.
Yeah, it really
Our year is shit right now. Cooper Webb's like the only hope we have left.
Yeah, pretty much. And then this week we have, for RM Fantasy, we have 12th place as a wild card. And again, you've got 4 or 5 dudes there.
Yep.
You have Jake Weimer. Malcolm Stewart is right in that range.
Tickle,
Bogle, Wilson.
Yep.
All those guys, even guys we talked about for the top 5 with Millsaps and Baggett.
Yep.
If they don't get starts, that's right in their range. So again, it's realistically as you watch practice, you look at the times, and you just kind of put all the names in a hat and pick one, and hopefully you get it right. There's not the nice thing is that even though the top 3, top 4 are all kind of, we'll say predetermined, because those guys are probably all going to be up there week in and week out.
Yep.
No problem. From 5th on back, I mean, it's
a crapshoot.
Yep.
It is.
Literally throw the names in the hat, pick them out, because you never really know.
Do you have one, though? I mean, I know everything you just said, but do you have a certain guy out of those, seeing how the last 3 rounds have gone?
I'm kind of upset because I picked Bogle for the wild card this week, and he really screwed me by not qualifying for the main.
Yep.
So probably I will go with something like a Weimer or Wilson.
Okay.
Those would be the 2 I'd probably narrow it down to.
Yep.
Maybe Bogle too. Those would really be my top 3 for the wild card for a 12th spot. How about you?
Well, for the wild card, last night it was 9th. I had Wilson. Dino he did pretty decent practice, kind of fluttered out throughout the night. I think with it being 12th, like you said, put a bunch of guys in the hat and pick one. I think just because of the way his results have fluctuated the last 3 rounds, I'd probably have to say Tickle. I want to say Jake Weimer. I like Jake, but San Diego and last night didn't really go as planned compared to how well he did at A1. I think it was like a 17th and then a 19th or whatever. So I'm probably going to have to go Tickle just because that's right around 8th to 12th is where Tickle finishes. My top 5 is kind of the same guys, but a little bit different. I think my 5th place guy, I think once again, going to the Dome and then the way the dirt's going to break down is really it's going to be a lot different for a few guys. All the same guys are going to be in there, but I think it suits guys differently. I'm probably going to have to go with a 5th place. I'm probably going to have to say Anderson. I think Ando, as much as I've said that I think he's the only one that had the speed, I don't think his head's going to be in it after all this crap going on. I think he's going to be a little bit pissed now that his championship hopes are done with. I just don't think his head's going to be in there. I think that 5th is a pretty good place to put him. 4th, I'm going to have to say, for the second week in a row, I'm going to have to put Cooper in 4th. I think that Coop, keep building. You know, we go to Oakland. He did really well at Oakland last year. I think that's when maybe he'll get on the box, but I'm going to have to go with 4th again. 3rd, I'm probably going to have to say Muscan. I think that Marv, he closed the gap last night. Once again, saying the only one that I think has a shot to beat Dungey, but I think that 3rd is a pretty good spot for him. Once again, you're talking about another guy that now with everything going on, you know, I think pressure's going to mount on him to be the guy to beat Dungey, and will he be able to handle it? And it's crazy to say this after everything that happened. I'm going to have to say 2nd place. I'm going to have to go with Dungey. I think, which is going to lead to, just might as well say it, my 1st place guy is Cole Seeley. Last night had nothing to do with it. The reason why I say Cole, the dirt in Glendale is a lot like Houston is when Cole won his first race a couple years ago.
Makes sense.
That would be the only reason I would say it. That I want to get that out of the way because I don't want people to look at me like, wow, why would you say that? He got dropped last night. Only because the dirt in Arizona is a lot like it is in Texas. Cole was very smooth, methodical. It's all about throttle control. And last night, I'm sorry. I know that he got 3rd. He just looked really good for whatever you want to say about Ken, what he was going to do or what he was going to do, Cole held him off for 3 or 4 laps. Whether you can, and I still believe it, and so do you, Cole was marking him and he was eventually going to make the pass. It doesn't matter. He held him off for 3 or 4 laps, whereas anybody else so far this year has gotten dropped as soon as they've gotten in front of Kenny. So maybe it's, once again, the false hope, but I really think that this is going to be Cole's weekend to get a win. I think the dirt's going to suit him. If I remember correctly, the track map, it's a long whoop section. Once again, Cole's strong suit. So I think that Cole goes out and gets a win. I really believe in that kid. I believe in him a lot. So that's maybe another reason why, I don't know, whether you want to call it favoritism, whatever, but I really believe in Cole, and I think he goes out and gets a win this weekend. So,
well, I can't argue that, but I hope the weekend is as entertaining as this weekend was. Yep. Because this definitely, there was
just nobody getting hurt.
Balls everywhere. Yeah, we don't need to see anybody getting hurt, but stuff like the Freezy accident stuff, that's always entertaining. Even if hopefully it doesn't involve the same 2 guys, but hey, we'll see.
Let's talk about one more thing though before we wrap up the show. Is Honda going to put somebody on that bike? And
James Stewart.
Stop it. Seriously though, I know that it's not that big of a deal, but let's talk about it for a second.
Do they get a fill-in rider?
And who the hell is it going to be is the big question.
I think there's a good possibility they're going to get one. Who it's going to be, I don't know.
That's the thing. That's why I just bring this up.
Who do you call?
Don't say Frederick Norn because Freddie Norn is not going to get that ride as much as I like Freddie.
No, I don't think Freddie's going to go on there either. But who do you call? Wilson isn't going to go ride it because Wilson's tied up with Yamaha. Even though he's a privateer right now, he's tied up with Yamaha.
It's not going to be Malcolm.
So he's not. Weimer's only got, 1 race left?
2 races.
No, I thought he was only through 4.
Well, I think Barsha is having a setback with his wrist. So I think that's... Either way. I think he's the only guy, though. I mean, really.
Weimer?
Yeah, I think he's the only guy. I mean, you're not going to put... You can't go anybody else that's riding a Honda in the top 10 or whatever because they all have rides. Yeah. Somebody said Brayton, and I'm like, no, it can't be Brayton. He's got to ride with Moto Concepts.
Yep.
Nobody on a Honda, as much as I hate to say this privateer-wise, has done anything. So for everybody saying that, oh, we're going to put the 7 deuce, shut up. That's not happening. There's nobody on the 250 that you're going to bring up.
I mean, I don't. James Stewart. I mean, but no, nobody. They're not going to call him because no one knows if he's ready or anything about that. So,
and I still believe he's going to be on a Suzuki whenever he does decide to come back. I mean, really though, it's
which I've heard he's not coming back till Daytona anyway. Yeah. So
it's not that important, but it does raise a big question with all the money that Honda's put in. I have a hard time seeing them not putting somebody out there with Cole. It's just who the hell do they do it? Mm-hmm. That's the thing. Years past, they've had people to put on that bike, whether it be a 250 guy or a decent privateer, but everybody's locked up. So it makes you think, is Weimer the only guy?
That's a good question. Yeah, I don't know.
I racked my brain last night, dude. I can't think of anybody.
Or how many rounds we got left before we go East Coast?
3. No. Yes, 3. Because they go 6 rounds and then they go to East Coast. Arlington is the last round before we go to Minneapolis.
Or do they wait 3 more rounds and then put Jimmy D on that bike?
Oh my God, I hope not.
They could.
No offense to Jimmy D. Well, you know what? Actually,
that's not out of the realm. He's not really a title contender. Well, you could put Jeremy Martin on there too. Yeah, that's a good thought.
He's not in the points.
If he waited that long, yeah, either one of them.
He's not in the points.
But if I'm going by the MO that most of the motocross industry goes now, what have you done for me recently? Jimmy's been out front and led laps.
He has.
Jeremy just crashes.
Jimmy D just scares me because I've seen him ride a 450, and I've never even seen him ride a 450.
It would probably be great.
Yeah, you might see a lot of ragdolls. Seriously though, it would be cool, but it does really make you think. Well, no, because Jimmy D is the only Geico hope on the West Coast right now in points. Because Jeremy's been floundering around.
That's true. Yeah, so maybe
it's not important, people. But it does raise a big question with all the time and effort that Honda's putting in this year. Will they really honestly keep Cole as the only guy? Because if you think about it, years past, Trey's been hurt, but they've had guys to bring up from the 250 class or good privateers. I just don't know if I could see Cole being the only guy underneath the tent the whole entire year. So it really makes you think, is Weimer the only guy?
That'd be cool to see Weimer on a Honda.
And the question is how does he do on that Honda?
Probably great, because that bike's great. But we'll see. Who knows? We'll just have to wait and see what comes out this week.
It's going to be interesting.
It is. All right, so if you like it, remember, like, comment, subscribe. We're doing these weekly. We keep changing our background every week because we don't know what the hell we're doing.
Yeah, we never know what the hell we're doing.
So we're going to hopefully at some point get a studio-ish thing going to film at, but for right now, we're just 2 dudes on a couch.
Pulp and Max, watch out.
Pulp and Max, watch out. All right. See you guys next week.
See you.